If you had a time travel machine and you could go back in time, what would you say to your 20-year-old self? You see, I recently celebrated my 31st birthday. And on my 31st birthday, I did a lot of reflection. I reflected on the person that I am now and the journey that I am on as an individual. I've also had to think about the mistakes that I've made in the past and the choices that I would have made. And whilst I sulked at some of those mistakes and choices, I had to remind myself that those decisions and mistakes that I would have made definitely made me the person that I am today, that you're seeing in front of your screen. And I had to remind myself that I am proud of who I am. So, the first thing that I would actually tell my 20-year-old self is that I'm proud of you. And that's the first thing that I actually want you to tell yourself. Regardless of what mistakes or choices you would have made, be proud of the individual that you are. Because then you didn't know better, but now you do. And I'm very sure, like me, you have learned from your mistakes and that you have grown as an individual. Today, I want to talk to you about 5 things that I actually wish I knew in my 20s. Or if I had a time machine, I can go back in time and tell my 20-year-old self. Not to correct my mistakes, though, but to just give myself a gentle reminder that I'm human and the journey that I am on is a beautiful one. The first thing that I would actually tell myself is that, baby boy, you have to love you and appreciate you because that's the first thing that is going to shape you to be the individual that you're going to be. Whilst growing up, I allowed myself to be valued by my friends. And when I say valued by my friends, I wanted to be liked by my friends. And in relationships, I felt like the love that I needed to experience was basically what the love that the other person was giving me. But this journey of life has taught me that I needed to love myself first and appreciate myself first. Because once I love myself and appreciate myself, I know what my values are. And whatever else people give to me, if I don't think that it's matching up to what I truly value myself as, then that person does not belong in my life. That's something that I actually realized while reflecting on my 31st birthday. My 20-year-old self then would have said to my now self, but what do you mean? What do you mean that this isn't love? Because my 20-year-old self did not appreciate who he was at that time. The second thing that I would actually say to my 20-year-old self is that always have your best interest at heart and be selfish. A lot of times, people say to us, oh, you're selfish. Well, sometimes it's actually good to be selfish because it protects us so much. It allows us to not be as vulnerable and open to everyone or everything constantly taking from us. My 20-year-old self, even up to my 30-year-old self, learned this lesson. Whilst I was constantly bending backwards to help family, I had my most recently rude awakening that Sometimes you just don't need to give a fuck about anyone else other than yourself. That's it. Be selfish. If people call you mean, don't care. You shouldn't care. My 20-year-old self, I would tell my 20-year-old self, don't give a shit what people actually think about you. Just have your best interest at heart. Because when you're constantly giving and giving and giving, and people are constantly taking, they don't care what happens to you. They don't care about your finances, your mental health, your physical health. All they know is that you're supplying and they're taking, and that's all that matters. So for a very long time, I was in that vicious cycle of constantly giving and people taking and not realizing how much I was hurting myself because I had other people's best interests at heart as opposed to mine. And on my 31st birthday, I reflected so much on that point of actually, why wasn't I selfish, or why didn't I actually think about this from a long time ago? And that's because I'm kind. And that's because the world is also can sometimes, well, not the world, but some people in the world can also be shit individuals who constantly want to make their lives better by making your life worse. And I had to say to myself, going forward, I'm going to have my best interest at heart, regardless to whether or not it's in a relationship, a friendship, with friends or family. You know, I just need to have my best interest at heart. And that's something that I would tell my 20-year-old self and continuously going on in life. To my 20-year-old self, I wish that I could tell you to be selfish and have your best interest at heart because you've done enough. Growing up, I didn't have much. I'm not from a rich family, neither was I born with a silver spoon in my mouth. So, a lot of times, I would hear my parents talk about their money issues. Um, and ever so often, my 20-year-old self would hear my mother say how important it is to save money. And that's something that I would actually go back in time to talk to my 20-year-old self about. Just recently, my friend, one of my really good friend, Queenie, sent me a picture of us at work when we were working at a telemarketing company. And um, by the way, I hated that I hated that telemarketing company. Um, and she sent me a picture of um, when we were at a park at an event in the night. And in those pictures, I said to her, um, what are you noticing? And she couldn't pick up. She didn't pick up that had the same shirt and the same pants on and the same shoe. And basically, those were my road match. Anywhere I was going, those were the same shirts, those were the same shirt, pants, and shoe that I was wearing because I didn't have much. And ever so often, I felt like I didn't fit in because a lot of my peers were dressing up and I didn't have much to show. And now I look back on that and I say to myself that I would tell my 20-year-old self that money isn't always going to be an issue. Um, you see, in life, we often believe that when things are going good, they'll always be good forever. And when things are going bad, they'll always be bad forever. But that's not the truth. The truth is, life has its ups and downs, and we're going to experience things on one side of the coin at some point in our lives. And I really smiled, and we both had a good laugh at it. Um, and one of the things that I would go back to tell my 20-year-old self is that because you didn't have much, you developed a greater appreciation of money, and you learned that money is not the root of all evil. It is actually the solution to all of your problems. And you're going to find ways of how you can make money. That 20-year-old self who didn't know where his next meal was going to come from and hear his parents talk so much about the money issues that they were having actually motivated him to want to do more and be more in life. Losing friends and family along the way is not a bad thing. And that's what I would tell my 20-year-old self. That's like the fourth thing I would say to my 20-year-old self. In my 20s, I thought that when I lost a friend, that I was a bad person, and that I needed to make changes in my life to keep that person close to me. But my 20-year-old self actually need to know that people do change. You're not a bad person. The person is not a bad person. We both have different paths in life. In your 20s, your circle of friends is going to be way much more bigger than your friends in your 30s, because in your 20s, your values are different than your values of when you're a 30-year-old. Having friends is going to mean so much to you, but in your 30s, having a peace of mind is going to be what you value most. So losing friends along the way is not a bad thing, and you don't need to change anything about yourself. Finally, the last thing that I will tell my 20-year-old self is to stop using that measuring stick, that universal measuring stick that the world has set out for people to accomplish things by a certain age. Yes, you and I have seen all those cringe videos on YouTube where you should accomplish this by 20, by 22, you should get married by 25, you should have kids by 26 or 28, you should have a house and a car and a good job. Everyone's situation in life is not the same. Some people actually do start way ahead of others. And when I say start way ahead of others, they have the means and resources to accomplish those things in life. And my 20-year-old self kept measuring myself to the rest of the world, to actually my peers. Like, why don't I have this at this point in time? Why didn't I get to this at that point in time? And for a very long time, I sank myself in so much depression and guilt because I was not accomplishing those things in my 20s. But I later had to find out that that universal stick is not something that I want to measure myself with. And to my 20-year-old self who constantly used that measuring stick of things that I should accomplish by a certain time, I want to say that your future self is sorry that he put you through that, because you did your absolute best in your 20s to accomplish what you have accomplished, not coming from a rich family. And to you who are watching this, I don't want you to use that universal measuring stick to value where you are at in life and the individual that you are, because it's not your time and your season yet. But once you constantly work hard towards achieving those goals, that time and season will come and you're going to be really proud of yourself. If whatever I said in this video resonated with you, Um, and if there are other things that you would have told your 20-year-old self, how about you drop it in the comments below? And if you actually did like this video, how about you give it a like and subscribe to my channel so that I can continue to make videos like this, because I actually do enjoy making videos like this. A fun fact is that up until recent, even in my 20s, I was very scared of what other people would say about me and what they thought about me. And so I continuously hid myself away from the rest of the world. I didn't do social media. I hated taking pictures. Um, I didn't. I didn't even think that one day I would make a YouTube channel, um, and put myself out there for the rest of the world to see. But here I am doing it, and I'm sure that my if my 20-year-old self could see my 31-year-old self right now, he would be very proud, because this is something that he could and probably would have never done in his 20s. So give yourself some grace, because you deserve it. Like, subscribe, and share this video. I think it's time for me to go now because I've talked and rattled on a very long time. And thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you'll come back again and look at my other videos. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.